Welcome back to Roads Untraveled, you guys. Here in front of me, this is a 2022 Mazda CX-5. Now, I'm gonna give you a quick POV video review of the CX-5. Now, full disclosure, this was actually not the car I was meant to be testing this week. I was supposed to have the 2022, the new C-Class, the C300, which actually I was incredibly excited about. My buddy has a few 190Es, and I was gonna kind of do a little bit of a historic comparison, if you will, but the Mercedes had a few issues. It had some problems, so that might come at a later date. But for now, this is the 2022 CX-5. It is quite a bit different than the 2021, although it is not a completely new CX-5. There are only a few small visual changes. We'll go over most of the features on this car. Well, it's not a car actually, it's a compact SUV, how it drives, and we will unfortunately not really be able to compare it to any of the competition because I haven't driven a lot of the competition, but nonetheless, let's go for a drive and see how it does. So the 2022 CX-5 starts at an MSRP here in Canada, $43,350. This one in front of me, with the only option being essentially, because Mazda does packages, this polymetal gray metallic, which I'm actually digging. It's kind of a Mazda take on a Nardo gray. It does actually have, once you get closer and when it's in the light, it does actually have a little bit of a flake to it. Not too much, not overly done. And then the base CX-5 without this turbo engine under the hood starts at $32,975 Canadian, or right around $28,000 USD. So new for 2022, all-wheel drive is now standard. We do have also painted accents. This is the signature version here in Canada, which of course comes with the Skyactiv 2.5 liter turbocharged engine, which we'll get to. But these accents here on the signature model are painted the body color versus black on some of the other lower tier models, such as the GT, and these fender flares here. I guess they're not really flares. This isn't quite as wide of a body as the new CX-50 gets, which I will be driving at a later date. But of course, those kind of side skirts are also painted the body color. And then back here, these taillights have been updated. I think these are, I know, very minor changes, but these are probably the biggest changes we have on the new model year for 2022 of the CX-5. Are these lights? I really like them at night. I wish I could show you guys. Maybe I'll get a shot at night and put it in there. But the LEDs, they do carry over that kind of same boomerang shape as the headlights do. And then back here on the signature model, you also do get enlarged exhaust tips, which is kind of neat. And even on the signature model, this is pretty much the only kind of matte black finished body piece you will get. So on the headlights here, you can see that same kind of boomerang shape there. Well, those LEDs are showing up nicely on the front here. It's a great looking compact SUV, especially here with the body colored fender kind of trim and the optional 19-inch wheels. I believe these are the 19s on here. Yes, 225s all around. I don't know if this was Mazda's kind of idea behind this, but it's helping differentiate, for now at least, the CX-50 and how the body itself is kind of shrunken a little bit lower, but it gives the impression of a lower ride height with this car compared to the CX-50, which there is actually more ground clearance on that vehicle. There's about 7.5 inches of ground clearance here, where I believe it's about 8.6. So a full inch more ground clearance on the CX-50, but like I said, I'll be driving that car in a little bit, a couple weeks, so we can drive that when it comes to it. The signature also gets this kind of chrome accent around the grille here. I'm not the biggest fan of chrome in general. This, you know, it gets bigger as it goes up. You know, they needed to stop down here, I feel like, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And then of course, this grille here is new for 2022. And the radar cruise control sensors are hidden behind this massive Mazda logo there. But let's go ahead. Keyless entry, of course. We'll go ahead and pop the hood real quick for you guys. Show you the Skyactiv 2.5 liter turbocharged engine. This one, the signature model, does come with heated rear seats. We can see this is interesting. Usually heated rear seats are placed here, the controls, but here we have the controls on the armrest. It's a little bit of a change. I don't know what the purpose of that is. You know, you kind of have to move your elbow back to hit these versus here it seems a little bit more intuitive. And then the USB ports, which are usually found here, are actually underneath here. You open that up and there are your USB ports. I'm happy to see that these are just standard USB, and then if you have a USB-C cable, that still plugs to your phone. It's not just a USB-C connection on this end, which really annoys me because then it just limits what kind of devices you can plug in there. In my driving position, you know, I'm like 5'9", 5'10". I've got plenty of legroom, and so yeah, headroom is fine as well. There's a lot more headroom here than the Mazda 3 Turbo that I recently drove, and you guys actually really enjoyed that video. One of our most viewed videos of the year, which is some of the, you know, based upon some of the cars I drive, a little bit depressing, but it's fine. You guys liked it. So here we do have real wood trim here, real metal here, and then of course some of the materials are Napa leather on the signature version. A lot of that is on the seats here, and then some of this is, you know, it's soft touch plastic made to look more premium, which the Mazda CX-5 definitely is. It also comes with the premium 10-speaker Bose sound system, which if you spec the GT, I believe that's where that begins. So we do have the center console here. It's a little bit shorter than I would have expected. It does go relatively deep here. We have this extra storage tray here, but what I wish they would have done, which from photos, we'll poke around the CX-50 a little bit more, but from photos, what I can tell, the CX-50 has an armrest that extends a little bit further, and they could have very easily put a slide on this contraption here that would have extended it just up until the point of your controls here, and that would have helped a lot, because it's a little bit far back. You know, if you're sitting where I would normally be sitting, you just get the edge of your elbow on the armrest, but it's a small gripe. The signature model also comes with the 360 camera here, very high resolution. So all of the CX-5s come with the same 10.3-inch screen up here, LED screen, which you can adjust the dimness and everything on. It is not, like I said, a touch screen. Do I wish it was a touchscreen? Now, I've praised the Mazda 3 for not being a touchscreen, mainly for the fact that their idea behind this whole setup here and with the controls down here is so that you're less distracted from the road and you have less time to actually take your eyes off of the road and onto the screen and try pressing things, where you can just look and stay back in your seat and still have good peripheral vision. Now, I appreciate that in the Mazda 3, especially because the screen seems to be placed a little bit further back than it is here in the CX-5. Everything's a little bit closer to me. That would be fine. That would be great, you guys, but look down here. Look at the climate control. This is so counterintuitive to what Mazda's philosophy is behind their distracted driving and why they don't have a touchscreen. This climate control in the Mazda 3 is up here. In the new CX-50, it's up here. This is an update. In the CX-50, it's an updated version, the same that's in the Mazda 3, so it is higher up. Look at this empty space here. They could have easily moved all of this climate control, which I'm happy to report are physical buttons. I love that it's a dedicated system here, and that is a plus of not having a touchscreen, but it should have been placed up here, and I know that's coming, especially in the CX-50, that is the case. But it is worthy to note here that the climate control is not in an optimum position. It should be up here, especially if they're trying to be, you know, aligned with what they're saying about not having a touchscreen, not wanting to get distracted. So regardless, I'll have to look down to change my climate control, and there could have been a little bit more storage down there. That's pretty much the only thing I don't like about the CX-5 here. I did really want to rip these corners, but we're going to be stuck behind some traffic. Interior's nice. You know, the CX-5 definitely feels premium. Again, I haven't driven a lot of the competition, but it does feel premium in here. Again, this is real wood here. It's all soft touch plastics all around the cabin. Leather steering wheel as well. Now, this steering wheel is a little bit dated compared to the new Mazda 3. So that's just something I noticed. It's not dated in the controls or the paddle shifters. Those are largely the same, just kind of the look of the steering wheel and how the buttons are placed is a little bit dated. That's just something I noticed compared to the Mazda 3. And another good feature that I noticed is all of the windows, not just the front windows, are in fact a one-touch auto up and down. Same with the rears, which is not something you find very often, but they are all auto up and auto down one touch. So the 2.5 liter Skyactiv G turbo engine is the same as is in the Mazda 3 turbo. Here it makes 6+ horsepower over the outgoing 2021 model, so 256 horsepower at 5,000 RPM. And with high octane, 320 pound-feet of torque at 2,500 RPM, mated with a 6-speed automatic transmission. No dual clutches here, no fancy shifting. It is the same 6-speed as is in the Mazda 3. I have said it before in the Mazda 3 videos that I've done. I don't mind this transmission. I know a lot of people like to criticize it because it does have a lower gear count. I find paired with this torquey 320 pound-feet engine, it's paired pretty well here. Now, could it have been a 7-speed dual clutch? 7-speed being the overdrive? Sure. But here, especially when you put it in manual mode, you get like a longer time, you get more of a rev band to enjoy that roll-on of turbocharged torque. And it is a meaty torque curve. It is a nice engine. It's got plenty of torque. It does short shift, I've noticed, in automatic mode, quite a bit of time before you actually hit that just about 6,500 RPM red line, which is slightly disappointing. But there's not really any delay on the upshifts. There is a little bit of a downshift delay. That's where you're gonna see kind of the age of the transmission come into effect here, is when you do go into manual mode. It's not as quick as some of the European competition. Even on the upshifts, there's a little bit of a delay. The key here is, though, it's smooth, and of course it comes standard, like I said, with iActive all-wheel drive, which isn't quite an all-time all-wheel drive system. It is technically, it has kind of what's called standby torque. So there's always just a little bit of torque being sent to the rear wheels, but it will, in conjunction with G vectoring control, decide based on conditions, steering input, acceleration, everything like that, where to put and how much torque to put between the front and rear axles. So up to 50% of the torque can be sent to the rear. But when you're just driving around, it is, you know, somewhere between 90 and 99% of the torque is being sent to the front there in order to increase fuel economy. I mean, for a vehicle that weighs just over 3,800 pounds, it's kind of agile. It's kind of agile. And the G vectoring control absolutely helps. If you're coming into, as we pass, a BMW E46 330 Ci, which I'll get to in a second. When you're going around corners, it almost encourages late braking or kind of trail braking. Not that you're going to be trail braking a CX-5, but when you do, the nose dives further in and you don't have any sense, or I haven't so far, that I'm going to lose the rear end, which of course, if you're driving that hard anyways on the street, you're probably doing something wrong. But it is vastly under control. There's a smooth driving experience here, and versus the Mazda 3, even despite this extra ground clearance and weight here, it masks it relatively well. It's a very smooth driving experience. Now there is sport mode, which as far as I can tell It might have an effect on the steering. I can't really notice it. The Mazda 3 had a much bigger difference, it seems, between sports steering and standard steering. But what I do feel is a difference, vast change, difference in throttle response, and then of course transmission tuning. It'll keep the revs closer and most of the time just above that 2,500 RPM peak torque number. So when you do get on throttle, there is plenty of torque there. And compared to some of its competition, Mazda is blowing most of the turbo 4 cylinders out of the competition with how much torque they do make. And then, new for 2022 is this off-road mode. Nothing really happens here. There's no increased ground clearance. It does not have air suspension or adaptive suspension like that, so that's not the case here. It is just kind of software tuning, and the all-wheel drive system will kind of enhance and just give you more grip and more confidence when you're on loose surfaces. Now, unfortunately, we won't be able to test that out. We will be testing the CX-50 in regards to that when I have that. I do intend to take that off-road a little bit, which will be exciting. But it's a torquey engine. It's quick, like I said, quicker than most in this segment. And just for comparison, a E46 330 Ci, which we passed just a moment ago, does the quarter mile just 3 miles an hour quicker at the trap speed than the CX-5. Okay, and the 330 Ci at the time, now yes, it's an older vehicle, different segment, different genre of vehicles altogether. That was the step down from the M3, just to put it in perspective. And just for comparison's sake as well, a 2010 Mazda Speed 3 does the quarter mile just a second quicker, which may sound like a lot, but at the time that was like Mazda's flagship, absolute flagship. So it's interesting here to see just how far they've come. But as you can see, full throttle, it'll shift at 5,500 RPM, short shift. It makes sense because peak power is at 5,000, so it kicks it right back down into peak power. But at the same time, you always have manual mode, so actually, you can see if it'll let us rev all the way out. So it stops us at a hard 5,900 RPM, even though the rev counter shows us somewhere around 6,300 RPM being redline. It physically does not let us go there. Maybe with traction control off it would, I don't know. All right, there you guys have it. That's a quick POV drive in the 2022 Mazda CX-5 Signature. I would highly recommend you go with the turbo Skyactiv engine, even if you think 186 horsepower in the base NA engine might be enough for you. In those situations when you want the passing power, the turbo is essential. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick drive. And yeah, we'll be back very soon. I will be driving, some exciting stuff coming up. Actually, later today, I'm driving a rotary-powered MX-5. So that's going to be a lot of fun. A little bit more character, but subscribe if you haven't already. You can find me on Instagram at Roads Untraveled. All the links will be in the description. And of course, if you want to find your own Mazda CX-5, the Auto Tempest link is in the description. That just makes it so much easier to search for across the entire internet for the vehicle you're looking for. So until next time, you guys, have a good one.